I never thought the final years of my life would be spent swallowing insults instead of pills. My body, once strong and stubborn, has become a frail prison. Parkinson's, they said. Terminal, they whispered. And with each tremble of my hand, I saw the disgust in his eyes. My son-in-law, Marcus. "You're rotting away anyway," he sneered last week as I sat trembling in their spotless kitchen, unable to lift the teacup he'd shoved toward me like a jailer tossing slop. He thought I wouldn't speak, that I couldn't speak. But I did. Into his voicemail. And now everything he built is coming down like the house of cards it always was. "My name is Helen. I'm 72. I raised my daughter Laura as a single mother after her father died of cancer. I worked as a hospice nurse for 30 years, helping the dying die with dignity. And now, in a cruel twist of fate, I've become the one wasting away. My hands shake, my legs go numb, and my speech sometimes slurs, but my mind is sharp as a scalpel. It started the day Laura brought Marcus home for the first time. Slick hair, designer shoes, smile like a politician. I knew immediately he was poison in a velvet box. But she was in love finally, she said, and I didn't want to be the bitter mother who ruined her happiness. They married within a year. After that, she changed. I barely saw her. Calls stopped. Holidays came and went with empty chairs and colder silences. Then 3 months ago, the inevitable happened. I collapsed at the grocery store. They called Laura. She sighed audibly on the phone. "I guess we can move her into the guest house," Marcus muttered in the background. From the first day I arrived, I was treated like furniture. I wasn't a guest, I was a stain. Laura was always busy, and Marcus took every chance to remind me I was a burden. "You should have gone into a home," he said one evening, as I struggled to climb the single step into their kitchen. "But I guess you like watching your daughter suffer, huh?" I stayed silent. I always did. I told myself it was better than a hospital. At least I wasn't alone. But even the walls in that guest house were cold. They didn't speak to me. Neither did my daughter anymore. She had become a stranger, her warmth swallowed whole by the shadow of a man who controlled everything, even her smiles. Then came the worst night of all. I overheard them fighting in the main house. His voice was raised, hers was sobbing. "You said she'd be dead by now," he barked. "You promised me we wouldn't have to deal with her this long." And just like that, I knew. My illness wasn't an inconvenience to him. It was an expiration date, one he was getting impatient with. I shook so hard that night I could barely breathe. But something inside me hardened, something long buried under years of sacrifice, of silence, and it whispered enough. That night I didn't sleep. My body ached and my legs throbbed as if reminding me they were still here, still failing. But I lay in that tiny guest bed with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, hearing every echo of their laughter and clinking glasses through the paper-thin walls. They thought I didn't matter, that I couldn't hear, that I wasn't really there. I had spent decades putting everyone else first. After my husband passed, I worked double shifts, changing sheets, holding hands, cleaning wounds so Laura wouldn't go without. I never dated again. I poured every ounce of love into my daughter. She was my world, my reason, my light. I put her through school, sacrificed vacations, ignored my own pain so she could have more. And now I was a ghost in her home. It wasn't always like this. There was a time before Marcus when she called me every day. She'd come over with leftovers from dinner and tell me about her job, her worries. We laughed, we fought, we cried. She used to braid my thinning hair while I sat at the kitchen table. "You're my best friend, Mama," she once whispered. I don't know when that changed. Maybe it was the moment he walked into her life. Maybe I'd just gotten too sick to be worth loving. One afternoon I asked her for a ride to the doctor. Marcus answered instead. "She's busy. Can't you take the bus? Or maybe don't go at all. What's the point?" I remember blinking at him, too stunned to speak. And then he said the line I'll never forget. "You're rotting away anyway." Laura didn't even flinch when he said it in front of her. Just walked out of the room. I sat there alone, my hands trembling so violently the spoon slipped from my fingers and clattered against the floor. No one picked it up. But the worst of it wasn't the words. It was the knowing that Laura had begun to believe them. That maybe deep down she saw me as a burden too. I tried writing her a letter. I tried calling her late at night when I knew Marcus would be out, but she never answered. I even left her a photo album on her pillow, old pictures of us on the beach at the zoo, her holding up her graduation cap. She never said a word about it. Days passed like gray fog, the pain, the silence, the shame. It was a different kind of dying. Then, one Thursday evening, I heard Marcus laughing on the phone outside the guest house window. I could only make out part of the conversation, but it was enough. I told Laura it was a smart investment. Her mom signs it over, and when she finally croaks, the land's ours. Something snapped in me. He had tricked her into transferring the deed. My house, my only asset, gone. I had signed it under pressure, trusting my daughter. She must have thought it was for taxes or protection like he claimed. But it was all a lie. That night I sat in the dark with my phone in my lap staring at the screen. And then slowly I pressed record. My fingers hovered above the screen, trembling from both the disease and the rage that coursed through me. I opened the voicemail app, tapped new message, and whispered, not just words, but truth into the dark. At first I didn't even know who I was speaking to. Maybe Laura, maybe the universe, maybe myself. But the words came slow and quiet like a drip in the silence of night. Laura, you don't know what he's done. Marcus, he used you, he used me. The house, our house, he lied about it. I heard him. I have nothing left because I trusted you. I paused, breath ragged, then continued. He's planning something you don't see. You're just another piece in his game. I know I'm dying. I know I'm not the mother you remember. But I'm still your mother. And I won't die quietly for him. I ended the recording and stared at it. 1 minute and 42 seconds. My heart pounded. Should I send it? No. I had something better. That weekend, Marcus took Laura to a charity gala, one of those tuxedoed events where he could flash his teeth and pretend to be a loving husband. I was left alone as always, but that was exactly what I needed. I knew his phone's passcode. I'd seen him punch it in one evening while yelling at his stockbroker on speaker. I waited until the security lights dimmed, shuffled out of the guest house with my walker and crept inside. The house smelled like expensive soap and lies. I made my way to his office, found the phone and the charger on the desk. I unlocked it, 6452, his birth date, and scrolled through his messages, his emails. And then I found them. Photos of another woman, messages with hotel bookings, voice notes. He hadn't even tried to hide it. While Laura was out shopping for organic baby lotion and gluten-free pasta, he was planning weekend getaways to wine country with Camille. The same Camille I remembered from his business trips. I didn't cry, I didn't rage. I just quietly forwarded them to myself, then placed his phone back exactly as I found it. Back in my room, I listened to the voicemails again, copied them to a flash drive I'd hidden in an old vitamin bottle. Then I opened my email and sent the recordings to my lawyer, an old friend who'd helped me write my original will. Hold these, I wrote. Send them to my daughter if anything happens to me. That night I slept for the first time in months. The next day, Marcus strutted into the guest house unannounced. You forgot to take your meds, he barked. I smiled. He froze, startled by my calm. I left you a message, I said softly. He scoffed, rolled his eyes, and stormed off. But I knew he would listen. And when he did, everything would change. The next morning was quiet, too quiet. I sat in my chair by the window, pretending to knit, though my fingers could barely hold the needles anymore. I waited. The sun inched across the sky. Birds flitted past the sill. Still no sound from the main house. Not a single slammed door, not a barking voice, not even the usual blaring of Marcus's obnoxious sports radio. Around noon I heard footsteps, fast, heavy. A door slammed, another, then shouting, muffled but furious. It had begun. By dinner, Laura came to the guest house alone. Her face was pale, her mascara slightly smeared like she'd been crying, but didn't want anyone to know. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes refusing to meet mine. You sent me something, she asked. I nodded. You listened. Her jaw clenched. I don't know what game you're playing, Mother. But Marcus said, What did you hear, Laura? I cut her off gently. She looked startled. Her lip trembled. Is it true? All of it, I said, voice thin but steady. The house, the affair, the things he said about me, and about you. Silence stretched between us like a wall of thorns. Then barely a whisper, she asked, Why didn't you tell me sooner? I gave a bitter smile. Because I wanted to protect you, even when you stopped protecting me. Her eyes welled. She turned and walked out without another word. I didn't expect her to stay. She needed time, to rage, to grieve, to see the man she married for who he really was. The next morning I woke to yelling Laura's voice this time. I pressed my ear to the window. You manipulated me, Marcus. My mother, you used her. He tried to calm her. I could hear the smooth lie creeping back into his voice like a snake coiling for warmth. Babe, she's confused, sick. That woman's brain is... Then I heard the slap. I read everything she snapped. The emails, Camille, the messages. You lied to me about everything. A door slammed. Tires screeched. Then silence. Later that evening, Laura came back. Her hair was a mess, but her eyes were clear. I filed for separation, she said simply. And I talked to the lawyer. He told me everything you'd sent him. You protected me when I didn't deserve it. I didn't answer. My throat was too tight. She stepped forward, knelt beside my chair, and reached for my shaking hands. I'm so sorry, Mama. A tear rolled down my cheek. He stole everything I whispered. Not everything she said. He didn't get you. That night, for the first time in years, we sat at the table and ate dinner together. Just the two of us. She cooked soup from my old recipe card, the one with the oil-stained corner and faded handwriting. She even held the spoon to my lips when my hands couldn't manage. From now on, she whispered, we do this together. And I believed her. The days that followed felt almost unreal. Marcus moved out that weekend. He didn't even look in my direction when he left, just grabbed his duffel bag and muttered something into his phone. Laura didn't speak to him either. She just watched from the front steps, arms crossed over her chest, jaw clenched in that quiet fury I recognized from when she was a teenager. I remembered that same look the day she stood up to a school bully for her best friend. I hadn't seen it in years. She spent every night with me after that. Some nights she cried. Other nights she asked questions, hard ones. How long have you known about Camille? Since before he convinced you to sign the house papers. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because you wouldn't have believed me. And I wasn't strong enough to survive you choosing him. That hurt her. I saw it in her eyes, but she didn't deny it. One night she brought me her laptop and showed me something unexpected: security footage. The guest house had an exterior camera. She had no idea it was still syncing to her cloud account. I watched him yell at you last week, she said quietly. Watched you shaking. I'm ashamed. I squeezed her hand. You saw what I needed you to see. That's enough. Then I told her about the voicemail. You what? She laughed in disbelief, wiping a tear from her cheek. I left him a gift, I smiled, right in his voicemail box. And judging by his silence ever since, I'd say he opened it. She leaned her head on my shoulder. That was so badass. I laughed softly, but the tremor in my lungs stole my breath. The truth was, I was getting weaker. The medication barely helped now. My body stiffened in the mornings and sagged by nightfall. But even in decline, I felt stronger than I had in years because I wasn't invisible anymore. Laura began legal proceedings to reverse the property transfer. She spoke to a financial advisor about restoring my accounts. But most importantly, she sat with me every morning and every night. Sometimes we just held hands. Sometimes we watched old home videos, her dancing in a tutu, me clapping off beat. Sometimes we said nothing because that's what healing sounds like. One evening I found an envelope on my nightstand. Inside were handwritten letters, from her, to me. I wrote these when I was pregnant, she said. I just never mailed them. I was scared, confused. Marcus, he twisted everything, but now I want you to read them, all of them. I cried that night, not from pain, but from something else I thought I'd lost long ago. Love. The kind that doesn't fade with sickness. The kind that doesn't vanish when you can no longer stand. The kind that shows up late, messy, broken, but real. And for the first time since Marcus called me a burden, I felt whole again. It's been 6 weeks since Marcus left and somehow I'm still here. My doctor says it's a miracle. I know better. It's not a miracle, it's relief, peace, forgiveness, and a reason to stay just a little bit longer. Laura comes every day. She's filed for divorce, frozen the joint accounts, and is working with the lawyer to void the property transfer Marcus tricked us into. But she says those are just legal battles. The real work, she told me, is rebuilding us. I see it in her eyes. The shame, the guilt, the quiet determination. I don't need her to apologize anymore. She does it every time she holds my hand. Every time she brings me tea and tucks a blanket around my legs without making me ask. The voicemail Marcus received that day was only 1 minute and 42 seconds, but it shattered everything he built. I found out later that he'd gone to Camille's house in a rage, accusing her of setting him up. She threw a glass at his head and slammed the door. Apparently, she hadn't known he was married. Classic Marcus. Thought he could lie to everyone forever. But secrets like rot rise to the surface eventually. Laura confronted him with everything. Photos, recordings, legal threats. He didn't deny it, just packed his things and vanished. She hasn't heard from him since. No calls, no begging, just silence. And I finally believe that silence is golden. My health is still fading. I won't pretend otherwise. The disease doesn't pause because my heart is lighter. The tremors are stronger now. My legs are mostly useless. My breath shortens by mid-afternoon. But now I have Laura. Every morning she makes me breakfast. Every afternoon she reads to me books from our old shelf. She's even taken to brushing my hair again like she used to when she was a little girl. Sometimes she cries while she does it. Mama, she whispered the other day, how do I live with what I let happen to you? And I told her the truth. You don't live with it, baby. You rise from it. We've started a small ritual now. Each night before bed, I whisper a story into her voicemail just like I did to Marcus. But these aren't secrets or traps. They're memories, recipes, lessons. I call them the voicemail diaries. I told her one day after I'm gone, she can play them whenever she wants. To hear my voice, to remember, and to never let anyone silence her again. She asked me last night if I hated Marcus. I thought for a long time. Then I said no, I pity him, because he never learned what love actually looks like. I don't know how many days I have left, maybe 30, maybe 3. But however few, they'll be mine. They'll be ours. And no one, not disease, not cruelty, not Marcus, can take that away. If you've made it to the end of my story, here's what I want you to remember. Silence can protect peace, but it can also enable cruelty. I stayed quiet for too long, not out of weakness, but out of love. That love was abused. If you're older, sick, or feel forgotten, know this: you still have worth. Your voice still matters, and it's never too late to speak up. Don't wait until someone tries to bury you in silence. Document everything. Tell your truth. And if you're a daughter, a son, a caretaker, look harder. Listen deeper. Don't let shame or pride blind you to the pain in someone's eyes. Love loudly. Forgive, but don't forget. I left a message that changed my daughter's life. You can too. Even a whisper when spoken with truth can shake the walls of a lie.